Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Kevin.
and we're from TRINUS Technologies. Hey, Kevin, how do you like my new t-shirt?
Good. I like it. It's very appropriate.
The end is near.
It is. Yeah.
The end of what, Kevin?
The end of Windows 7 support, January 14th, 2020. There will be no more security or bug fixes from Microsoft.
Wow, okay, that sounds like a big deal. So for some of our users who have maybe a small business at home or maybe just a couple of home computers tied up on a very small network, what's this mean to them?
So this is actually a big deal. It's not just for the big businesses. Everybody, from somebody with a single computer at home to somebody running a small business, needs to be concerned about this. And the biggest reason is because of security. So most people just get frustrated by Windows updates. They don't understand necessarily what's happening with them. But the truth of the matter is that the majority of times Windows updates are fixing security holes in the Windows operating system. So failing to upgrade or failing to get Windows updates, as Windows 7 won't after January 14th, 2020, means that your computer is potentially vulnerable. And that could be from everything to somebody hacking it and taking it over remotely to viruses, be it malware, ransomware. You could potentially lose all of your precious baby pictures.
Wow, okay, so if I've got a Windows 7 computer come January 15th, I don't get any more of those annoying updates from Microsoft. So that sounds like a bit of a positive to me, but you're telling me that that's going to be a haven for cyber hackers.
Yes, cyber criminals. Yes, will definitely take advantage of that. So, despite the fact that Windows updates are annoying from time to time, they do serve a very necessary purpose, and so you really want to have them as opposed to not.
Okay, all right. So what's a person going to do to get their computer on Windows 10?
So there's a variety of ways to do this and to go about this. The first and most natural thing is because the majority of computers out there that are still using Windows 7 are actually old enough that it's about time, or probably slow enough that it's about time that they should be replaced. So the natural thing is obviously to look at purchasing a new computer with Windows 10 on it. Then that way you don't need to worry about the upgrade process. If that's maybe not affordable or the computer that you're using is still good and it's still newer, one potential thing to do is that the data on your existing computer can be backed up, and then your computer can be wiped completely. Windows 10 can be installed fresh, and then your data can be put back and applications can be put back onto the computer. That minimizes the possibility for various bugs or other problems that we see when a in-place upgrade is installed. That's when the upgrade is installed just on top of Windows 7, or Windows 10, sorry, is installed on top of Windows 7. But it is a bit of a longer process. Depending on the performance of the computer, depending on the amount of data that somebody has on their computer, it could take anywhere between 1.5 to 4 hours.
Oh, all right. Well, I remember selling a computer to a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and we said, put Windows 7 on for now, but it came with a free upgrade to Windows 10. What's he going to do?
So under that particular circumstance, then obviously his computer is Windows 10 ready. The only thing that would need to go into that is actually the service of having his data backed up and Windows 10 installed to the computer, and then the data moved back. But under that circumstance, he would not need to purchase a license for Windows 10, which users that didn't purchase a computer with Windows 10 would need to do at this point. And that license can be pretty expensive. It can be around $260 if you want the Pro version of Windows, and it's closer to $200 or $180 if you want the home version of Windows.
Okay, well that brings up an interesting point about cost. So if I have to get a brand new computer, what's that going to cost?
And that could cost, really depends on how much you want to spend. In our store, for example, we have some laptops that start in that $500 to $550 range, but the sky's the limit depending on what you're using the computer for. If you're a business user and you're using it for graphics design or more intense use like that, then the computers, you're likely looking at a computer between $1,500 to $2,000. If you're a gamer, you're probably in the same range because you want a high performance computer, but an average home user, likely around that $1,000 mark for a new computer is likely around what you're looking at.
Okay, now I know a lot of small businesses, they have maybe a couple of computers at home that they run their business on,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got some printers and they've got a firewall and router and
Mhm.
Wi-Fi and what have you. Will all those accessories work with the new Windows 10 computers?
They likely will. The only thing that could potentially be at jeopardy out of the things that you described is potentially some very, very old printers. We're talking about printers that were purchased at the maybe early 2000s or in the 90s, the type of printers that made all the dot matrix printers that made all the funny noises and such like that. Those printers may not work in Windows 10, but the majority of things made after 2008 should work just fine. Windows 10 does have a good level of compatibility with hardware like that.
Okay. Now, what about people who put all their files in the cloud? Maybe they've got them on a Google Docs or Dropbox or one of these other popular applications for storing files. Is that good enough, and they don't have to upgrade, or what's the story there?
No, they definitely should upgrade as well. So one of the things that people need to keep in mind is the majority of cloud services synchronize data between the cloud and between your computer. And especially on the free versions of a lot of these platforms, there are not robust backups of that data done in the cloud. While Google and Microsoft and Dropbox protect themselves if something happens to their data center, to the cloud, so to speak, they can get your data back. But if you get a virus like ransomware on your computer that encrypts all of your files and locks you out of them, in many cases, those files are, those changes in that encryption is synchronized to the cloud. And it may be, in some cases it's recoverable and in some cases it's not. The other thing that people need to think about is how often they use their computer, be it for a small business use or be it for a home user. Having access to a computer is quite important. And so if you can avoid the downtime of having to get your computer serviced if it was compromised by a threat, because because you had Windows 7, you didn't upgrade to Windows 10, that's got to be worth something to people as well.
Okay, well, you mentioned something about maybe backing up. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people have just maybe a portable hard drive or something to back up their file. Is
Yep.
that still going to work on Windows 10?
Yeah, in the majority of cases it will. So it really depends on how that backup is set up. Windows 10 does have some built-in backup algorithms and routines that can be used, though we don't necessarily recommend those, especially for a small business. But the majority of backup software to an like that could be used to an external hard drive is compatible with Windows 10. And actually, there may be some additional pieces of software that are only Windows 10 compatible that may not be applicable to an older computer. So there's actually more options moving to Windows 10
Oh,
compared
all
to
right.
Windows 7.
Okay, well, I know some people, they're probably maybe tired of Microsoft doing all these updates and what have you. Is it a good idea for them to switch to maybe something like a Google Chromebook or some other device that isn't Microsoft based? Is that a good option?
It really depends on what you're using things for. Now, one thing I will say is the other devices out there do have updates. They're typically not as frequent updates, but they do still have updates. And so Chromebooks, MacBooks, anything made by Apple or any Mac machines, even Linux computers, you have to update them to keep them secure. There's still security threats for those other operating systems as well. The updates just typically aren't as prevalent as the ones for the Microsoft platform. But one thing to keep in mind is Microsoft and the Windows platform is the most common, and that means it's the easiest to do the majority of things with. Or there's the most compatible pieces of software, the most compatible printers, etc., etc. That moving to a Chromebook or to a Mac-based computer will likely result in a compromise of some sort on what you can and can't do with the computer. And it's really up to the user to decide if that compromise or that unfamiliarity with a different operating system is acceptable or not. But any three of those operating systems could be a good computer for someone.
Oh, all right. So it sounds maybe like a Chromebook or MacBook might not be a good choice for a business application. And speaking of applications, are all my applications going to work when I do that upgrade?
That depends. And so unfortunately, I can't give you a more firm answer than that. The majority of applications that we've seen will work just fine with Windows 10. But it is important to just verify with the vendor of the software that the software application is Windows 10 compatible if you are moving to Windows 10. Just because you don't want to be in a scenario where you upgrade your computer and realize that your application does not work. In some cases, you may need to upgrade your software to a newer version that is Windows 10 compatible before that works. So that's something that you should look at in advance of upgrading your computer.
Okay. Well, I know a lot of people are paying for antivirus software, And now when they upgrade to Windows 10, do they still need that antivirus software or can they get rid of that?
No, they definitely still need it. Windows 10, while you are getting the updates that Windows 7 won't be getting after the 14th, and Windows 10 is a more secure operating system by itself, antivirus looks for different things than Windows updates fix. So typically Windows updates fix what are called zero-day vulnerabilities, which are vulnerabilities that mean a threat or a malicious party could bypass the antivirus or a firewall or something like that on the computer. And so those updates are important to happen, but in a lot of cases, the antivirus will detect things because they're being updated on a much more frequent basis, maybe every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes or so. They'll detect things that Windows updates have not patched yet.
Oh.
So both are important. You got to think of it as layers of security.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, it sounds like it might be fairly simple if I've just got one or two computers to upgrade. So should he just wait until January 14th or sometime shortly after and then get something?
No, I would recommend getting this done as quickly as possible. Anywhere that you're going to purchase new computers or anywhere that you're going to get this service performed, be it your trusted, be it your friend who knows about computers or an IT professional or an IT company, they are going to be swamped come the 14th of January and close to the end of 2019. So the sooner that you can get on this, the better, because you really don't want to be doing it after the 14th.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, I think that covers it, everyone. I hope that's been helpful.